Hi, I'm Matt from Interformula, and welcome to our Research and Development Centre. We do all forms of research and development, all the way from designing and developing our own race cars, to simulators, to running cars in racing series and rallying all over the world. We also do a lot in the Asian Classic Car Championship, so do look out for us. For any information, do contact us with the number down below.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 3 of the Adrenaline Impact iRacing Malaysia Championship Season 2. The Kia Optimas today are heading down to the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval course this weekend. Fantastic weather down there on the course, temperatures of 23 degrees Celsius. Quick thanks and shout out to our sponsors, Works Engineering, Lucas Oil, Precision Sim Racing, Android King, and our supporter for Season 2, the Motorsports Association of Malaysia. My name is Matthew Palmer, and with me in the virtual studio is Kelvin T. Hi, Kelvin.
Hi, Matt. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, I know you would much rather be down there on the track, but unfortunately you have to pull out, I believe. For those of you who are wondering, fans of you back home, Kelvin T is a member of the Hermanos Veloces racing team. So tell us about yourself.
Hey, sure. Thanks. I mean, usually I'll be down there racing with the boys down here. But today, have some brownie points to earn with the Home Minister, if you know what I mean. And as a result, will not be racing tonight. So I'll be joining Matt in the commentary box today and looking at these guys on the track with huge envy in my heart. Since you asked a little bit about myself, I'm pretty much a standard, normal guy with just the love for petrol flowing in the veins, and fortunately be blessed with work that is also rather interesting to me. But I work in a bank, but weekends and also any time I can spare, then I'm hitting the track on iRacing, which is it's quite fun.
Absolutely. So you've had quite a bit of experience now with these Kia Optimas. What do you and your teammate think about the cars for this season?
Well, as you can see, on the screen right now, right, Nazmi Mazli, which is currently our time leader, just hit the wall a little bit with his Padawan SRC car. I think that's pretty much how I feel driving these cars. These cars, they are front wheel drive, and people tend to think of them as easy to drive, but actually they're not really easy. It's easy not to spin, but as you can see, it's quite hard to go quite fast in these cars without wrecking them. So these cars, they are a beast to drive. I can say that, yeah.
Absolutely. And around a track like this, where you really don't have a lot of margin for error, it's going to be very difficult to keep the cars in a straight line.
Yeah, very much so. And I think the true battle will come. Let's take a look closer to the race, maybe the midpoint of the race, where people may choose to pit one stop, or they may choose to go on a 2 aggressive stops, and we'll see, because the tires do really fade on these cars, man. You feel it, like you turn the car in and it just does not bite.
Absolutely. You can see some of the cars going through the curbs there. Not only is the wheel spin going to be a factor, that's what really sort of limits these cars in terms of tire wear, but also just the impacts on the curbs, which are setting the cars sideways. That must not really help the tires that much.
Yeah, that's fully agreed, especially on this fantastic circuit, which you can see 2 very, very tight and very exciting chicanes that we have here.
Absolutely. And that's very interesting infield course. You don't often see the infield course on a combination road and oval circuit have that much elevation change. It's quite interesting to see there are actually some blind corners in the middle of an oval track. So a real tricky challenge for the drivers up ahead.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, this circuit, it really can catch you out if you're not very careful in the infield section. That one blind right turn, oh, that's the one that gets you. I mean, the minute you hit that, it's either you just have to cruise out there and just accept that you're going to lose a few positions, and that's it. There's not really anything much you can do, because an unsafe rejoin there would definitely just cause a scene, a huge, massive scene.
Absolutely, and this track has been the scene of a lot of very, very big pileups for one, especially coming into and out of the oval section. Turn 1, rather interestingly named as Heartburn Turn, as I saw the other day on the track map, and I think it's rather apt around here. So this is a track that really throws up a lot of excitement. Very, very spectacular racing, and occasionally the odd spectacular crash or two. So the driver's going to have to really be on their toes around here.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, just for our viewers here, this car, it's a Kia, right? You see this car on our Malaysian roads all the time, but it is a very different beast in track on circuit when you drive it, because it has no ABS, of course, being a race car, and it being a front-wheel drive car, meaning to say if you go in too hot into turn 1, as per, its name, heartbreak, right? You really will feel yourself understeer massively, and just pray that you don't hit the wall. Oh, as you can see right there, Iman Danish with a massive wreck on screen as he tries to take the bus stop chicane a little bit too hot there.
Absolutely, and that's going to be the trick around there, as you'd know, with the bus stop chicane on the back straight there. You have to take it as much of a straight line as you can. You do what's known as straight lining, which is trying to turn the wheel as little as possible and carry as much speed through the corner, and try and deviate from a straight line as little as possible. But obviously that's a very, very high risk strategy around here, especially with the sausage curbs that seem to be a bit of a favorite with the fans, perhaps not so much with the drivers.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Having driven one of these on a weekly basis, I can say that the suspension is indeed very bouncy, just being a touring car after all. As you can see just now, after Iman Danish's huge hit, his car was still bouncing on the ground, and that's not abnormal for these kind of cars to be bouncing like that, because of the huge suspension damping that they carry.
Absolutely, these cars, you have to remember, are very heavy indeed, very powerful and quite stiffly sprung. They can't really rely on their aerodynamics too much. Yes, they do have a rear wing and a front splitter, but that's about it. There's no diffusers or ground effects to speak of in these sort of vehicles, so you really do have to rely on that mechanical grip, and that's led to some pretty stiff suspension settings. As you can see there, even when Kelvinder was going onto the apron, a real big shock load going through the suspension system there.
And as you can see, a lot of drivers, you will see the heads of the cars dip before they enter a turn, because you absolutely have to do that if you are actually trying to navigate the turn, because these cars do understeer very crazily if you just dive in head first. I myself, being one of the first to experience them in these cars this season as well, I hit the wall quite hard in the first race, and that was pretty much it for me. So yeah, what an experience for me myself indeed.
Absolutely. And speaking of your race experience, how is Hermanos Veloces going with yourself and Javier?
Not so much. Not so well this season. I think we didn't really take a liking to this car so much as we would think we would. But because predominantly myself and Javier Alvarez, my friend, my good friend, hi Javier, he's probably watching the stream somewhere. Because he is also occupied with something today and is not able to make the race. But myself and Javier, we are more open wheeler based. We like to race anything open wheelers. So the skip barber, skippies as we call it, is our favorite. And we also do the Formula 3, Indy Pro 2000, and pretty much any open wheeler that we can get our hands on, right? So hopefully one of these days we'll see them here as well in AIMC, but here's my fingers crossed.
Absolutely, it's one of the goals of this entire series and this entire championship is to try and bring some variety into each of the seasons. Season 1, if any of you old timers will remember, not that it was that long ago, it was with the Mazda MX-5, little roadster, rear-wheel drive, absolutely no aerodynamics apart from slipstreaming. And now we're going up into these touring cars, basically very similar to a real-life TCR car. It doesn't quite have the aerodynamic package of, say, a Golf TCR car or something like that, but definitely a step up. And we're hoping to introduce something a little bit quicker for next season, although you will have to stay tuned to find out about that.
Yeah, most interesting, and can't wait to see what we have for next season, because I mean the racing in the AIMC series here is really one of the best that I've had experience in, and I'm very grateful to be given the opportunity to take part in this race. As you can see here, I think our lineup is full of experienced sim racers as well as real life drivers. So very proud and very happy, and I mean just grateful to be a part of AIMC, and I'm sure the other drivers feel the same way as well.
Absolutely, and it's been amazing for us to see how close the battles have been. As you can see here on the leaderboard, we'll just have a quick look at what the practice times are like. Of course, a lot of these drivers are doing long runs for race simulations. Some of them are doing qualifying simulations right now, but for now, Nazmi Masli is up there with a 1:18.210. He's in first, followed by Tagir Shad in second, and Shami Azri in third, followed by Saiful Arifin, Aman Razam, Shamir, Nigel, Danish, Farid, and Kelvinda. And just looking through the times there, the top 13 positions are all within a second of each other. In fact, they're within 6/10 of each other, which really goes to show how close the racing is in this series. And it's been quite surprising for us to see new sim races as well as old, and the real life drivers really mix it up together on the same field and really keep themselves quite close to each other.
Yang ini kita harus tekankan di mana supaya anda tidak menggunakan
Alrighty, so we're just going to have a quick
racing
listen
board,
to our chief steward,
dan
Paduka Shoaib
kalau
Hassan,
boleh
deliver
janganlah ada
the
sampai yang
opening briefing.
memaki hamun ataupun mencarut ataupun mencaci ataupun peli. Kita tak nak guna benda-benda itu semua, dan kita akan kenakan warning dan juga penalti kalau benda ni masih lagi berulang dan dengan orang yang sama. So kita harap kita nak clean, kita tak nak ada apa-apa isu lagi lah untuk race pada malam ini. And then yang seterusnya, please respect pit exit dan juga pit entry. Okay, tolong jaga apa orang kata speed limit. Dan nombor 3 ni sangat penting, di mana respect track limit. Jangan ada cut track, jangan ada langsung yang nak curi-curi ayam apa semua. So kita akan minta juga benda tu. Siapa yang ada curi ayam kat tempat yang tidak sepatutnya, and then akan dikenakan tambahan masa lah. So sila berhati-hati, jangan cut track. So yang keempatnya, please alert car behind bila nak re-entry balik, safe re-entry. Berhati-hati. Dan kalau boleh, kalau ada masalah dengan kereta, terus kalau masih boleh memandu lagi dan tak menyusahkan pelumba-pelumba yang lain, dan boleh je bawa kereta tu pergi ke pit. Okey, tapi kalau dah tak boleh sangat, park tempat yang selamat and then escape saja. Okay, macam biasa kita nak tekankan, after finish race, all driver has photo session. So, kena pastikan betul-betul yang semua pelumba-pelumba ni dah habis finish race, dah habis dekat finishing line tu. Barulah kita buat sesi tu. Dan kalau nak ada pelanggaran ke apa ke, itu semua korang nak buat babi apa semua tu boleh lah. Tapi sebelum orang lain tak finish lagi, so korang tak dibenarkan untuk melanggar kawan ataupun pihak lawan ataupun apa sajalah. So, benda tu pun kita ambil berat juga. So, kalau ada berlaku benda macam tu, so tindakan penalti akan dikenakan untuk anda. And then untuk qualifying sekejap lagi, sila berhati-hati, jangan draft terlalu rapat sangat. Bila draft, timing korang tidak akan direkodkan. Bukan individu qualifying tu. Pertanyaan,
And that was our steward, Paduka Sheikh Hassan.
bukan
Has
qualifying.
been very helpful in being our chief steward for the AIMC, just giving out the briefing there. In the meantime, we had a little comment down there, comment section below. That was Michael Hafiz just saying hi to all of his fans out there watching the stream right now at the moment. We do occasionally get some of the racing drivers popping in into the chat session
Buang seat apa
once
semua. So
in
benda
a
tu pun
while.
kita
But
ambil kena juga. So
special thanks goes out to Paduka there.
Yep, thank you indeed to Paduka for nice briefing to your drivers. And actually, Matt, I was about to say just now before Paduka started his briefing that actually looking at the race today, we should have one hell of a race because up to P20 is pretty much covered within a second or so. And this really serves up to bring us some very tight, very exciting racing today. So I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely, and it's looking to be a very, very close race and a very, very close qualifying session indeed. So qualifying will start at around 10 p.m. Malaysian Standard Time. And we're now about 5 minutes away from the start of that. So we're just watching the last of the practice sessions goes through. But right now, our top 10 very quickly: Nazmi, Irshad, Azri, Saiful, Morazam, Shamir, Jezrin, Nigel, Wicket, and Dominic. So a lot of these guys are still tearing it out there. A lot of the drivers have now gone into the pits. Perhaps they've finished their practice program. A lot of these teams will give their drivers a little bit of a program to run through during the practice session. Some of the other guys would just go out there and try and push as hard as possible, try and get their race pace up. So that'll be very, very interesting to see who's going to come out on top. But it looks like it's going to be very, very close, especially between second, third, and fourth. Taku Irshad, Azri, and Shaif Arifin.
Yep, yes, indeed. I can't wait for qualifying to start in approximately 4 minutes' time. So a lot of things to look out for. I mean, at the moment we can only guess what kinds of fuel loads they're running, but this should serve up some very interesting racing for today.
Absolutely, and the nerves must be beginning to start up with some of these drivers about 4 minutes away from the qualifying session. How are you with nerves, by the way?
All good. All good. I mean, yeah, all's cool. This is really nice to be in, this position. It's not stressful at all. It feels so nice to be here witnessing all this going down without being at the wheel yourself,
Absolutely. I was just going to ask immediately after that, what would your nerves be like if you were in the car right now?
Ooh, now this is the time whereby I think for myself it would be quite a bit of a struggle because personally I'm not that fast a driver myself, so I'll probably be in the 20s or 30s here, and this is the time where you really push so hard to try to make up some time and just get some muscle reflex in so that you know the turns by heart, right? I mean, a lot of these drivers, I understand, they do lots of laps in the week preceding the race. Like they will have we have this warm-up race, and they will do private practice sessions just to ensure that they are at the tip top of their performance, which is evident, right? Because then you can see the timing is so close between these drivers, and that's something that is very, very impressive with the roster that we have today.
Absolutely, and speaking from experience myself, not only in sim racing but also in the real world of motorsports, a lot of the drivers I've spoken to, the worst time for any sort of nerves is exactly around about now, just before qualifying, just before the race, when you really have to focus in and try and clear your mind there. A lot of the drivers do it in very different ways. I just saw another comment there from Michael Hafiz there. He was just sat there sharing this video stream to all of his friends, around 30 WhatsApp groups apparently. So thanks for that, Michael. Very much appreciated. I know some of the drivers would just be sitting there in absolute silence. Some of them will just be doing some idle chit-chat, but definitely once the race gets going, it does get a little bit better. But the worst part really is the anticipation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we are going to go and have a quick break. We'll get back into the qualifying session right after the break. So we will see you in just a few moments. And we're back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you who've just joined us, we are now at the Charlotte Roval for round 3 of the Adrenaline Impact iRacing Malaysia Championship, Season 2 with the Kia Optimas here. And we're just going to have a quick shout out to all of our fantastic sponsors: Works Engineering, Lucas Oil, Precision Sim Racing, Android King, and our supporter for this season, the Motorsports Association of Malaysia, our local ASN and governing body for motorsports here in Malaysia. It's fantastic to have them with us. And with us today, also fantastic to have you, Kelvin.
Hey, thanks for having us. Thanks for having me once again. Very glad to be here.
Absolutely. For those of you who've just joined us, Kelvin T is a racer in the Adrenaline Impact iRacing Malaysia Championship for the Hermanos Veloces team. Unfortunately, they weren't able to come over for, I'd say, fiduciary duties, but that's perhaps not the right word for it. If you get my drift.
Yes, yes.
We've all been there.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. I mean, yeah, just very much. Thank you so much to once again Adrenaline Impact for hosting this series. Because me and myself, my friend Javier here, really enjoyed ourselves in this season, in this series. And I mean, we didn't have a team back then in the last season, but this season we formed one. We call ourselves Hermanos Veloces, which means speedy brother, speedy brothers in Spanish. You know, coming off the Malaysian saying of bro for your bestie here. So we went with the bro approach and take it to a new level in iRacing. So yeah, that's how we started it. I mean, it's a really good experience so far, racing together and in this league. Very good, very good. Very much enjoyable.
Absolutely. And as a personal note, as commentator for the Adrenaline Impact iRacing Malaysia Championship, I wholly support having properly good creative team names. So for those of you perhaps thinking of joining us for future seasons, do think of a good creative one. I might even sponsor a prize for that. You never know. It might just be a bottle of Ribena though, because I'm broke.
Oh yes, but that indeed is a fantastic idea, right? I mean, creative and cool and just outright maybe just funny names. Just here. To join the season. But I tell you what, I mean, Matt, the racing here is anything but funny, you know. I mean, these guys, they take themselves seriously. And I think a lot of us, we've had the saying that, iRacing, sim racing in general, this is just simulation, it's a game to some. But I think all of us here at AIMC and indeed, I can say that I probably represent the drivers when I say that we take this seriously and everything is, debated. We even have a post-race show where we talk about the moves and what happens in the race, and all of this is done very nicely. So I just want to, as a racer, not a commentator myself here, as a racer, once again thank the AIMC team for your hard work done. That's fantastic.
You're absolutely welcome, and we will try to keep this platform up and running. This is going to be an absolutely fantastic thing that we'll be able to keep up and running for many more months and many more years to come, hopefully. But for now, just a quick recap right now. We have Roslan is in the provisional pole position with a 118.374, followed by Ahmad Norazam 118.42. Freddie Ang for the URT guys is in 118.487. So the question is going to be, who is going to get down into those low 118s, and will we see a 117.9 before the end of this session?
Yeah, and as a testament of how competitive and how good these guys are, I just want to bring this up that, Amir Farid Yan, which is currently fourth in the position with a 118.553, he actually did that on his first ever hot lap, first ever flying lap around the circuit. So that time is still within the first top 4 positions, and indeed they are still looking to improve on their time. So just imagine how good these guys are to be actually doing that kind of time on their first flying lap. That's fantastic.
Absolutely. It just goes to show how competitive it is at the top of this series. You really do have to bring your A game, and you have to be going out very quickly indeed. Amir Farjan, for sure, one of the contenders for pole position. Saiful Arifin there has just beaten him, however. He's just gone fourth fastest himself with a 118.487 again on his outlap, and it looks to be like it's going to be a very close battle for the pole position. We have Roslan, who is new to the top of the leaderboard there, and we also have Norazam. Freddie Ang is going to be a serious contender for pole position. Saiful Arifin and Ilham Halabi, the 2 most experienced sim racers out there, along with Dominic Ang, Tikujan, the Prince of Drift as well. Really, it's going to be very hard to pick a pole position out of this top 10.
Yeah, indeed. As you can see, I mean, the timing from Jan of P9 and Arif Roslan of P1 is less than a second away. I mean, that is just incredible. And we can't just wait to see what happens when the race gets started and the adrenaline gets pumped. This should be one fantastic race. I can't wait.
Absolutely. We're going to see Tikujan Lay go around. He's done 120.4. Jasri Jonas has improved, but he's in 33rd position with 33. A lot of these drivers now will be going on their out lap. Some of these drivers preferring to take more than one lap to warm up. So they'll have an out lap, then they'll have a bit of a warm up lap before going for the full timed lap. Some of the other drivers will just try and go on it straight out. I know Amir Faradian is one of those drivers that can switch it on pretty much immediately. But we'll see how this session pans out. But it looks like they're getting up to the sharp end of the times pretty quickly now.
Yep, yes indeed. And I think one thing to note about these cars is that they do understeer quite a fair bit if you screw up your tires and then they just get overheated. So for some, it may be better to do your time on the first flying lap, and some might want to take one more lap, as you mentioned just now, to really warm up the tires and get the things flowing before they actually attempt a lap. As you can see, Azrael here, I believe he has just aborted his lap as he comes out of the bus stop chicane there. And Nigel is now doing his lap, one of the top runners. Nigel is currently running in P17 with a time of 1:19.12, but as he proved in his practice session, he can definitely go faster, so keep your eyes peeled on this lap for him, Nigel Chua.
Absolutely. Now he's going to go through the Bank of America infield section, coming out back onto the main oval track. A little bit of a misconception here. Again, one of my trivias that I like to drop once in a while. The Charlotte Roval, the infield course itself, actually has been around since the mid-80s. It was in fact developed for a series that never happened, the NASCAR LR series, which was going to be a road racing version of NASCAR that didn't quite work out, but did spawn two very good things. One was the original version of the Charlotte Roval, and secondly, the fantastic Trans Am TA2 cars, some of which are in fact racing in Thailand and around Sepang on occasions.
Oh, that's very interesting. Things you never knew you need to know. But yeah, that's really cool information. I'm glad I'm here today to listen to you tell me that.
Absolutely, for all those anoraks out there who need just that little bit more useless information. Right here for you guys, but we know you guys like a little bit of that sort of information, just tying the history of the place into what we're doing right now. Jasri Junos is out there, but so is Arif Roslan, who's really come alive in the last couple of rounds of AIMC. He's definitely improved by leaps and bounds, and it looks like he's going to be a very, very quick driver. He might be able to help his SSAD team out quite a bit there.
That's right. As we just ride on with Khalif, perhaps on a warm-up lap or a cool-down lap, he's probably going to stop. Yep, he does, and he goes back to the pits.
And now we see Shukran in the Dante's Todat Motorsports machine. Todat Motorsports, really, along with URT, probably the two biggest entrants in terms of number of drivers for the teams. For those of you who are wondering, each team is made up of either 2 or 3 drivers. So Todat Motorsports having, I believe, somewhere in the region of 10 drivers, they had to split their team up a little bit. So there's Dante's Todat Motorsports, there is Todat Motorsports Revolution, Todat Motorsports Asia, and the main Todat Motorsports team itself. And of course URT with their Team Black, Team Pink, Team Blackpink, and Team Gold. Fantastic naming scheme there. As well, but hopefully we'll see a few other drivers come up the field to challenge the Outer House FCR team. That is going to be the strongest team, I think, for this weekend. They've been doing very well. They've come off a top 3 in the previous round, so that's going to be the target for everyone else to try and catch up.
Yep.
Meanwhile, we look at Jay Chung completing his lap.
Yep. And I think for those drivers who are currently in the pit lane or on their out laps, this is probably their last chance to do one last flying lap before we end the session in about 2 minutes time, actually, I beg your pardon. And yeah, so let's take a look as Jay Chung takes his URT gold through the field. Matt, I was quite aware that URT stands for something quite interesting. Are you aware? I mean, the name.
Absolutely. Seeing as it's a lot of veterans from the real world of motorsports in URT racing. In fact, I believe all of them have experience in international motorsports. They've gone for the rather euphemistical name of the Uncle Racing Team. So that's perhaps one more point for them in the creative naming stakes.
Yes, indeed. But if anything, as we've discussed before, I mean, they probably need some investment in the livery side of their team.
Absolutely. But I suppose that's one thing that can be improved in the following seasons. And what's amazed me, everyone's brought to the table over the previous 2 seasons. Everyone's developed by leaps and bounds. As we see Jae Chong, he's unfortunately had that big sideways moment coming out of the bus stop. That might have affected his run up to the line, and it looks like he's going to have to pull off. So that's a real shame for Jae Chong.
Yeah, I think that should be one thing that we all should take note in the race itself, as drivers navigate the bus stop chicane, which could be very tricky. As you can see, Jae Chong trying to straight line it, but hitting the curb too much and then compromising his exit, and pretty much was quite lucky to not actually have crashed the car. As we see in AIMC Season 1, where a lot of the cars, which are Mazda MX-5s, running the front engine rear drive layout, crashing out at that particular corner as they take the chicane in the wrong way.
Tak nak ada benda-benda yang menggunakan benda-benda itu semua sebagai alasan, okey. Yang ketiganya, good luck untuk korang semua. Semoga race malam ini membuahkan hasil dan ada kejayaan buat korang.
Absolutely. That was our AIMC steward, Paduka Shoaib Ahsan, just with a little annex to his briefing, just letting everyone know out there what's expected of them in the coming race. Now, this is when people are going to start feeling a little bit nervous. One man who's really going to be nervous is Arif Roslan for SSAD Go Racing Gen Y. He's in first position on pole for the Le Mans style lineup, followed by Ahmad Norazam for Outer House FCR Performance in second place. Freddie Ang for Team URT Black is in third, followed by Shaiful Arifin for Todat Motorsports in fourth position. Following on from then, we have Arme Faridian, Ilham Halabi, Dominic Ang, Shami Aizan, Tengku Janle, and Kelvinder Singh on our top 10, followed by Iman Danish and Tunku Irshad in 11th and 12th.
So on the next page, we have Shami Azri, and we have the rest of the drivers coming right up at the lineup while we go get ready for the green light, and we shall start the race soon. Stay tuned.
Absolutely. Now we are focused fully on the drivers. James Russell yet to grid up, Freddie Ang yet to grid up, but all the rest of them are on there. Shami Azan as well. Everyone will just be waiting for the moments when they load in and will begin that parade lap. Now, a little bit of a unique situation here at the Charlotte Roval. Because we're using the chicane, we have to line the cars up in a rather unique way. So, as you probably picked up from the briefing from Paduka on the radio, the drivers will pull out Le Mans style and follow the Porsche 911 safety car out onto a parade lap. This is just because of the rather unique geometry. The NASCAR guys also do the same thing, but it's an absolutely fantastic sight to see all these guys lined up.
Yeah, it makes for a very good photo opportunity as the lights prepare to go off and they prepare to go off on the formation lap.
Absolutely, and we begin to see the drivers pull out in unison. Arif Roslander, he is in first position. Now, what goes through a driver during the warm-up lap at this moment?
Well, for me, it's a huge focus on trying to warm up the tires. So as much as possible, for myself, I'll be doing the brake bias to the rear tires, trying to heat it up. For this particular car, as this is the Kia Optima at TCR, front-wheel drive, 375 horsepower beast that they're driving here. So it would be very good for them to actually drag the brakes a bit, warm up the tires, and get them ready for the start. But as a lot of the drivers have proven in qualifying, these tires actually do come out of the box quite sticky and quite able to do something. But one thing that you don't want to be caught out is that these cars, while they are front-wheel drive, tend to have a little bit of lift-off oversteer if you go into a turn. And for our viewers, that means sometimes if you go into a turn too hard, the rear will want to step out and want to spin you around. Yeah, so this is something that drivers should probably look after in the warm-up lap. And also, one very important thing is do not crash into the person in front of you.
Absolutely, on several occasions during the warm-up race, and through no fault of their own, some of the times we have had incidents during the warm-up lap. But I suppose that's why we have warm-up races, in order to get the drivers familiar with the starting procedure. So now on the map, it looks like they're only about a third of the way there, but they're around about halfway in terms of lap time if they're going at full speed. Arif Roslan there. A lot of the drivers are now in position. They've only got the 2 chicanes and NASCAR 3 and 4 to navigate. Now, for those of you who are wondering, on the banks, we refer to the whole corner as 2 turns, turning into the corner and turning out of the corner. So occasionally you hear me say NASCAR 3 or NASCAR 3 and 4 or NASCAR's 1 and 2, and that just means they're on the banking. Rather unique naming convention when it comes to a rather unique American track.
Yeah, yes, indeed. So as we prepare for the start, I think some of the drivers have taken an approach where they come late to the grid. Perhaps at the end of the tail of the train here, Adi Rahimi Rashid was one of the last who came rushing all the way in to the pack of the cars, perhaps to have a clear track and run up his tires to make them warm enough. But I think as we near the start, I'll hand it over to you for the race start.
Absolutely, the nerves are building, the drivers are getting ready. You can feel the tension, you can cut the tension with a hammer at this point. Now Arif Roslan has control of the field, the lights are on, they'll go off, the green flag has been waved, and it's go, 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 and Arif Roslan has managed to make a fantastic start coming into the first corner there. Freddie Ang has managed to jump up into second positions, and Nur Azam is in third. Shami Aizan almost has a big problem there. A lot of the drivers are backed up coming into turn 1, but they've managed to get through safe and sound. That is amazing. Through Heartburn turn, they've managed to get through without the typical first corner incident. That must be an absolute credit to all the drivers out there. But right now, Arif Roslan has managed to pull away quite a lot indeed. In fact, he's already gained 0.7 of a second from Freddie Ang. So that is a fantastic start from Arif Roslan.
So just gonna let you here listen to the engines as they roar down the oval style bank. And as we head into the first bus stop chicane, let's take a look at our lead pack and how they handle this particular tricky corner. Remember, going too hot and you risk having your car bent off and sent into the walls, or even worse, into another competitor.
Absolutely, that will be another location for a big incident, but Ahmad Razam, along with all of the leaders, have gone through safe and sound, through NASCAR 3 and 4, through that fantastic banked oval, as we see Dominic Ang come into the braking zone there, and you can see all the cars going through safe and sound. Dominic really throwing the car over the curbs there. You can find a lot of time there through using all of the curves and then some, but of course that is going to be a very risky maneuver. You could find yourself facing the wall or even worse. Now Dominic going through turns 1 and 2 and into the Bank of America infield section there. Very colourful part of the racetrack, and it looks like all the drivers are beginning to stretch out quite a bit. This has been a remarkably clean start from all the drivers there. But Arif Roslan, he has managed to pull off into the lead, but Freddie Ang has begun to try and claw that position back. Dominic Ang, meanwhile, he is starting to close up on Amir Faridian up ahead, with Ilham Halabi even further ahead of him. But Saiful Arifin looks like he's going to be catching Ahmad Razam very, very shortly indeed.
Yes, and on the right part of the track where he wants to be this close to the car in front, he's enjoying every bit of that slipstream going into the chicane, which is going to be so challenging for these guys. And as you can see, there's one driver who didn't really make it clean through the first lap, which is Iman Danish. I think he's struggled and is currently in position 41 after qualifying 11th on the grid. That's very unfortunate, but let's hope Iman can give us a fight back and bring his speed, which he has shown through qualifying, into the race itself. As we look at currently, Saiful Arifin going up very close to Noor Azam and going into turn 1, heartbreak turn. Super close, super tight, super exciting. This is AIMC for you.
Absolutely, we like it. Nice, close and challenging, but now Freddie really has to look after the cars behind him. He's dropped back a little bit from Arif Roslan, but I believe he is now has his mirrors full of the Kia Optimas behind him. Right behind him is Ahmad Norazam, who is only 3/10 behind, and right behind that is Saiful Arifin. Both these cars are within a eye blink of each other, I should say, and within a blink of an eye, that's going to be close enough for the slipstream effect. Let's see if Freddie Ang will be able to fend off Ahmad Norazam and Saiful Arifin. The gap drops down just a little bit as they join up on to the oval track coming out of NASCAR 2 and into this very, very tricky section here. Almost had a big incident there. He's really using every single inch of the road and more to try and run away from Ahmad Norazam, but this might be a case of wait and see for the two drivers behind.
Yes, and bear in mind, these guys, they are pushing their tires to the absolute limit. And if you are first time to this AIMC Kia Optima series, these guys will definitely be not able to carry the same kind of speeds that they do across the chicane as the race goes on, as the tires wear down, as the weight decreases, and they pit to change their tires. This should be very interesting to see how, and it should be very interesting to see how they change their approach to navigate that particular chicane. It is always very exciting to see the cars go through the chicane, especially with the extra speed that they carry through the slipstream.
Absolutely, as we see there, Amir Ferd, and he's dropped down one position. Ilham Hlabi has managed to have a rather fantastic start. He's jumped Amir Faredian, which is a very difficult thing to do indeed. Wicket Low now is all over the back of Teguh Ezan. In fact, it looks like Teguh Ezan has a little bit of damage from the back end of his car. Could they have been already in the wars? And it looks like Wicket Low is going to be very close coming into this slipstream zone, coming into the bus stop chicane. So will we see another position change coming right up?
Yep.
Coming into the braking zone here, and Wicket is really pushing the car as hard as he can. He's got a URT car ahead of him, and he's also got a URT car behind him. You can't discount James Russell just quite yet. He is very quick indeed, and he's proven that through the first two rounds, perhaps finding himself in a little bit of a misfortunate situation in the first round as well as in the second round, but it looks like he might have the pace in order to be able to catch up Wicket Low. But that is if Wicket Low can't put Teguh Ezan in between himself and Russell.
And as we focus our attention on the midfield, we're looking at Nazim Mazli, who in practice session actually topped the sessions, running very, very speedy, very fast into the practice sessions before qualifying, but unfortunately did not translate that into a qualifying performance that he desires. But he's currently running 20 in P20, and is looking to catch the cars in front of him. What a close battle in the midfield for these guys here. Going on to the oval section, very important to take a very tight line and maximize your straight line speed to have the maximum passing power at the end of the straight going into the chicane. Let's take a look at this battle right now.
Absolutely. Nazmi is going to really try and push that car hard. He's got quite a few cars behind him and as well as ahead of him, but he's got a good buffer.
And that's a big one. There's a big one. There's a huge one. Huge hit in the bus stop chicane as Taufik Tahir crushed out. What a big hit, and he's still bouncing around in the apron there, suffering a huge hit, but able to drive away. And regardless, he is definitely going to want to pit to fix this damage right away.
Absolutely, that was an absolutely huge accident. I was very surprised to see him drive that car away. Very lucky indeed, but he will have to head into the pits and get that car checked out. But that was a huge incident. That just goes to show what we were talking about earlier with the bus stop chicane. It is very dangerous to try and take that fast line through there, and it perhaps the tires are just starting to lose their grip, lose that ultimate edge of grip that they have. They're beginning to drop off a little bit, and perhaps some of the drivers will have to change their approach to the bus stop.
That's right. And we don't know yet, but it might be a yo-yo effect whereby you enter the first chicane a little bit just too fast, too tight, and too hot, and then you hit the curb, and then it just bounces up and barrels you into the second one, flipping the car and flying it up. I mean, my experience driving these cars, they're quite tough, right? They're touring cars after all, but the fact that it bounced back, he would probably have suffered huge damage to the car and would definitely have to pit for repairs immediately.
Absolutely, but the main thing is that he's still in the race, and we have seen fightbacks from much worse positions, so don't quite discount him out yet. This early on in the race, we're at the 8th minute of the race there, and we see Ruben Wong. He's gained 5 positions. He's one of the few drivers out from the back of the field who's perhaps he started out there on purpose. We have seen some of the drivers in the AIMC not really focus on the qualifying too much, and in fact focus purely on race pace, and some of these drivers just want to have a bit of a battle going up through the field. But Ruben Wong there, he's 5 positions up, and it looks like he's going to try and make that gap up to Michael Hafiz, who's directly ahead of him.
That's right. So as we can see on the timing screens which we have from the incident, Taufik Tahir has indeed rejoined in P40 and is still running 1 lap down, but definitely still in the race after that pit for the repairs. So good on him, and let's hope for a fight back there. So now as we look towards P11 Nigel Chua, which is running in P11 right now, having gained 4 positions already and gunning down Tengku Janle, the Prince of Drift, running in P10. This should be one hell of a battle as they all close up to the train. That is Shamir Aizan in front and Kelvin De Sink. What a battle going into the final chicane before the finish line.
Absolutely, and as you can see there, one of the drivers having to pull off into the runoff area. That should be no problems as long as he does not gain any sort of position. Sometimes you have to go off-road in order to avoid any unnecessary contact there. But Tengku Janle decides to go into the inside. They're going to go side by side, Tengku Jan and Shamir Aizan, which are just ahead of Shamir Aizan. But we know Shamir is not one driver to try and give up easily. He briefly goes behind, but they're now going to go and try to extend the advantage. But Tengku Janle manages to keep up into a 9th position. So Shamir Aizan and Nigel Chua are really going to have to fight hard in order to try and gain that position back from Tengku Janle, who's now reclaimed his 9th position.
How they did not end up with any incidents is beyond me. Perhaps that's why they're driving and we're talking.
Well, perhaps that's why one of us is talking and why you are our guest. Perhaps the driving should best be left to the professionals, or at least to the talented amateurs. And by the way, if you guys think you've got what it takes and you've got the right iRating skill, why not contact one of the teams and try and get yourself into the Adrenaline Impact iRacing Malaysia Championships. We run a team registration series for those of you who are interested to try and look out for some of the teams, including this one, Android King. Kelvinder Singh, he's been very quick, but unfortunately he's not been able to get to sort of gel with these Kia Optimas. As I understand it, these cars aren't the easiest cars to get along with, but it looks like he's starting to pick the pace back up again, and he is now beginning that hunt of Dominic Ang. You can see there.
I can attest to that because Javier and I, we do run rear-wheel drive Formula cars usually in iRacing, and in real life as well. I mean, personally myself, I drive a Lotus Elise, and it's such a beautiful car to drive around Sepang, and it's just wonderful to drive. But they handle way differently from these front-wheel drive turbocharged beasts that we have here in terms of understeer, in terms of the fuel that they're carrying, in terms of the tire and the bite that they're getting, and the way to turn it in. And for those who are not yet familiar with how differently a car drives, try the Porsche 911. It really bites you off if you don't brake or decelerate into a turn before turning. You really feel the understeer, and these cars give a similar sensation where if you get on the power, even if it's on 20%, 10% power, you feel that the car tighten up and just not want to turn. But so how to make the car turn faster and how to make the car turn even tighter while maintaining that speed, it's an art that only I think our top few really handles very well, and the rest also tries their best to really drive hard to get the speed that they want. But it's really tough to drive these front-wheel drive cars.
Absolutely. Arif Roslan, meanwhile, is streaked off into the lead. He is 5.9 seconds ahead of Freddie Ang, but meanwhile behind Freddie is an absolute train of cars. Ahmad Norazam is very close to Freddie Ang, as well as Saiful Arifin, very close to Norazam. Farid is close to Saiful, Ilham is close to Farid. Basically from positions 2 right the way down to position 8, they are in a bit of a slipstreaming convoy. and we could see a position change, especially right here. Ahmad Norazam is getting very close to Freddie Ang. Will we see a outbraking maneuver? It looks like Ahmad Norazam decides to back out of it just for this chicane, but will we see something happen at the final chicane there? He's getting close enough. He has to let Fairuz by there on the inside, or Fairuz has to let him by. He goes into the inside, and it looks like there is no position change going through there despite the back markers. And lap 11, we've already had our first couple of back markers get passed by the lead train. So this race pace has been absolutely electrifying.
Yep. Looking at the way Freddie Ang is defending, making his car as wide as possible, that is such a good move. Staying calm under pressure. I'm sure he can see on his iRacing relative screen how many cars are behind him. One whole train of cars are behind him, and yet he is defending his line with gusto, and he's sticking to his lines, opening up, making his car as wide as possible. But if you can see his car, it is braking smoothly on a straight line, and he's not weaving around to just try keep people behind him. So great driving from Freddie Ang, and great driving from the guys behind him. I mean, personally, I don't subscribe to the rubbing is racing mantra. What do you think, Matt?
Well, with these touring cars, sometimes you have to sort of give a little bit of a blind eye to extreme cases of close contact, but definitely no hard hits. When we talk about rubbing is racing here on the channel, when we watch these broadcasts, what we're really talking about is getting so close that you can literally smell the paint on the car behind you. As we see, Ahmad Norazam tried to go for an overtaking maneuver, and he's managed to make it work, but can he keep it? No, he can't. Freddie Ang has managed to make that overtaking maneuver work. He's managed to get that switchback on the start-finish straight, so that was an absolutely epic moment from Ahmad Norazam. He is trying as hard as he can to try and get past Freddie Ang, and it looks like he has managed to show his moves first. That massive dive into the final chicane. I wasn't expecting that, just quietly.
Yeah.
How about you?
That was a good move, but unfortunately he went up short and actually ended up conceding the position. I mean, Amir Faridyan was nearly up there, but conceded position to, fortunately, one of his own teammate in Auto House FCR Performance. And now it is up to Ahmad Norazam to take the fight to Freddie Ang. That was clean racing, clean defending all around, and I do agree with your view of rubbing is racing in the sense that not really rubbing, but really being so close that you can really much smell the paint, which I think Freddie would have smelled the paint of Amir Farid coming. And as Norazam lets his teammate Amir Faridyan pass into third position to try once again to attack Freddie Ang. Perhaps that is team orders and team strategy at work here to try to wear down the URT driver in front of them. What a great move from the FCR team.
Absolutely, and the FCR team being the top team from Season 1 and the lead team for Season 2 at the moment, they've definitely got the team strategy and the team play down pat this time around. This deep into the second season, you can see them working as a cohesive unit. Even though Norazam got that position fair and square, he knows that Amir Faridyan is perhaps their best hope of trying to reel Freddie Ang in. And Norazam is also doing a fantastic job playing rear guard right now, because right behind him is Saiful Arifin, only 0.3 of a second. You can see how close Saiful Arifin is, and I know for a fact that Saiful Arifin will not stop until he gets past that outer house car and perhaps up into a podium position.
That is. Alright, as we now look at P21 Malvinder Jit Singh and fighting with number P20 Azam right in front of him. Also a very close fight, only a few seconds behind our lead cars, and this is the battle for the midfield. What do you think about this battle?
Absolutely, it's going to be a very close one indeed, Kelvin. Malvinder Jit is very, very close to the car up ahead, Azam, so I could expect a slipstream overtaking maneuver. They might not even need that braking zone on the other side of the track there, but you can see that Malvinder Jit manages to get the car nice and tight into there, and that is Amir Faridyan off into the pit lane. What happened there?
Huge incident with Amir Faridyan. And this originated from after the bus stop chicane, where they were actually dueling for positions with Freddie Ang, and huge hit from Freddie Ang and Amir Faridyan into the pit lane, rolling the car. probably 6-7 times there, bouncing around on the stiff suspension, coming to a rest in the pit lane itself, and immediately getting towed back to the pits for repairs.
Absolutely, that looks to be an absolutely massive incident there, and that has taken 2 drivers out of the top pack. Perhaps they may have been listening to us a little bit too intently. What we mean by rubbing paint is not rubbing wheels, contact, and barrier at the same time.
Yes.
But it looks like they were just getting a little bit too close for comfort at the top of the banking, and unfortunately that caused that accident. Very, very typical accident to see in NASCAR, but it's very, very unfortunate indeed. We really didn't want to see that happen too much. But now that means Saiful Arifin is up into 3rd position, and Dominic Ang is now in 4th.
Yes, and the battle continues with top 5, right, as Norazam takes over the position previously occupied by Freddie Ang, and he's now have Saiful Arifin right behind him without his teammate in front of him to provide the slipstream that they once had. So this train, will we see a change to the order in this train? Let's take a close look as we ride on board Dominic Ang into the infield section of the track.
Absolutely, you can see that Saiful Arifin is now trying to put a few moves on Ahmad Norazam. That could be very deliberate indeed. He's just trying to put as much pressure on Norazam as possible before trying to make that overtaking maneuver work. As you can see there, just making sure he can be seen from Norazam's rear view mirror and side mirrors as well. But all of this battling, of course, will slow the drivers down because they're not taking the ideal racing line around the track, and that means Arif Roslan might have just that little bit of a breather out in front. 7.3 seconds up ahead, and it looks like Arif Roslan is in prime position when it comes to the first round of pit stops.
That's right. So let's look at some replays over here where this hit happened between Freddie Ang and also SSAD car at the bus stop chicane. I believe this is a separate incident compared to the one before where the FCR car hit the URT car. So this is incident number 2 for Freddie Ang. Back in the pits.
Absolutely, and that's going to be absolutely devastating for the URT team there. It just looked like, again, a contact on the high banks of Charlotte, and that is pretty much the last place you want to really come into contact with anybody on any sort of racetrack. Because of the banking, the cars do very strange things coming off of the roval and onto the roval, and when you have an accident on the banking, it's usually very, very big and very, very severe. So a little bit disappointing to see that, I'm sure, from the point of view of the URT guys, but I'm sure they've got still several drivers out there pushing as hard as they can to try and gain some points for the URT guys.
Yes, and maybe as a result, as a consequence of that hit, perhaps it affected several drivers as well, as we see in the P1 Arif Roslan doing a 124 last lap, perhaps to dodge the incident, or maybe he came across some lap cars, as the gap is now 4 seconds to Ahmad Norazam running in P2, and a further 1 second behind is Saiful Arifin running in P3. As you can see, the battle is now within visual range for Arifin and Norazam on the leader, Arif Roslan. As because I was about to say that Roslan probably is going to enjoy a bit of Hamilton time ahead, managing his tires, managing his fuel loads, managing his strategy and stuff like that. But it seems like it's not going to be so comfortable with the two guys bearing down on him, as Saiful Arifin on P3 goes into the pit lane and heads to pit box.
Absolutely. It looks like a lot of these drivers are going to try for a flexible strategy, I would have to say. At the 21-minute mark, you could probably, if you were careful with your fuel and tire consumption, get away with only 1 stop from here, but they're leaving their options open here. So Roslan in the pits, Saiful in the pits, Ilham Labi in the pits, Kavinder Singh also in the pits, along with Shami Aizan and Wicked Low. So those guys will be in a strategic battle with Russell, Adrian and Michael Hafiz, all within striking distance of each other. So they've managed to cover each other off, and that's a big incident from Ahmad Norazam, who was temporarily in the lead. It looks like there was a bit of contact between some back markers there, which is a little bit unfortunate for Ahmad Norazam, but it looks like he's still able to carry on. Just a little bit of light contact there. That's the problem with back markers in the infield section. It's very difficult to try and find a place to go past there, so occasionally you do end up with unfortunate situations like that. So Ahmad Norazam perhaps feeling a little bit sore, but still lucky that he's in the lead now. The job for Ahmad Norazam is to try and put his foot down and gain as much of a gap to the pitting cars.
Yep, and as this happened, we look at the battle, which we're looking at P7 Shaiful Arifin going through the midfield and having the leader before the pit stops happened, Roslan right in front of him, only half a second ahead right now, and attacking into the infield section of the Roval.
Absolutely,
What a race this is going.
Absolutely, these Toyota Motorsports guys have managed to get those cars out as quick as they can. The virtual mechanics did a very good job there in order to get Saiful Arifin as close as possible to Roslan. That was 4 seconds he didn't have to look for out on the racetrack. But now Ahmad Norazam and Afizul Jai have gone into the pits. They are now basically going for a bit of an overcut here and trying to make the slightly longer the slightly shorter second stint work, because of course you have to balance the fact that having a short first stint and running the first half like a sprint race could be beneficial for your tactics, but it also could be very beneficial indeed if you can shorten that second stint as much as possible so you can push as hard as possible.
That's right. Actually, I was going for the as we look at Shamir Aizan right now, I was about to say that earlier Norazam had the better strategy because, and that's a big hit for Shamir Aizan of RAB Pro Drag Esport as he clips the bus stop chicane was bad and then just unfortunately bounces off. Very fortunate to not collect another car in that process.
Absolutely.
So Matt, as I was going on, I had the moment to think that Ahmad Norazam was actually running an optimal strategy because of the traffic that they have encountered, the leaders have encountered on their outlap. Roslan and Shaiful Arifin as well encountered some traffic. I thought that was the good strategy until that incident happened, which sent him into the wall and also having to pit the next lap.
Absolutely, that looked to be a very good thing indeed, because the idea is to try and get out with as little traffic as possible up ahead, so you can sit there and basically try and hot lap the car as much as possible, try and get as much pace out of the car as possible, because at the end of the day it's all about time over distance for these sort of races. You really want to be completing these laps in as little time as possible. But Arif Roslan, he is still in effectively the lead at the moment, because Azri and Jezrin, first and second, they're in the pits, but Arif Roslan is about to overtake them across the line, and he has managed to come out of the pit stop shuffle in the lead.
That's right, huge action happening in the midfield as well, as we see the positions moving around in the midfield. But as we focus our attentions on Jezrin Jali, which is exiting the pit right now, he was the leader before Arif Roslan took back the position. He was leading it before that, and he is now moving on in P7 with 7 positions gained in his race so far, coming up actually very close to FCR teammate Norazam in 6th position.
Absolutely, there's only Adi Rahimi, the back barker, between the two of them, but they will be able to get through that quite easily, I am sure. But it looks like Ilham Labi has managed to overtake Saiful Arifin. Now, was that another team order? We know Ilham Labi is very, very quick, especially around this track. A little bit more of a trivia for you. Ilham Labi, I believe, has had the longest career out of all of our races here in sim racing. But we have a yellow flag.
So we have a yellow flag. Apparently, it should be happening between Rahimi, Rashid, and Ahmad Norazam. A big hit in the infield section, effectively blocking half of the track, perhaps triggering the yellow flag for this one. That's a big hit.
Absolutely, I feel like I might have put the commentator's curse slightly on that, because I did say that the guys should be able to get past Adi quite easily. As it appears, they didn't. But Arif Roslan will now lead the drivers out, but unfortunately it looks like he's just missed the safety car there, so that's going to be really tricky indeed. They've got to now line up all behind Arif Roslan and wait for the safety car to go past, and perhaps a little bit of confusion there. Some of the drivers will want to try and get past. The drivers now piling up a little bit on the infield section, and finally the safety car has managed to pick up Arif Roslan as the leader, and we're now under a full course caution.
That's right. So as we can see, there are some drivers on the pit board, on the leaderboard, that has not yet pitted for this race. Whether it is a strategic call to hold on longer, this could be their chance to pit once the pit lane opens up in a few laps time, and effectively have a lower time to pit if they are in a right position to do so.
Absolutely. We saw that actually Aman Razam has just gone out of the pit, so he managed to get himself into the pit lane just as the yellow flags came out. So that is very interesting indeed. Is that a bit of a misstep, or is that a bit of a strategic move, I wonder?
As you see, the cars now line up behind the safety car going very slowly. I'm sure a lot of them will take this time to actually recollect and reform their strategy for the coming next 17 minutes of this race as we enter lap 20 and closing onto lap 21 of this race in the Charlotte Roval.
Absolutely. It looks like we're going to have a very explosive end to the race, because now, of course, all the gaps will close up. Everybody will be able to see the driver that's up ahead of them in the leaderboards. And, of course, with the full course caution in effect, that will take at least 1 or 2 laps before it clears up. So we might see a very exciting end to the race. But your top 10 for the moment. Arif Roslan is in the lead, followed by Ilham Halabi in the Tona Motorsports car right behind him. Saiful Arifin is third, his teammate there. And Kelvinder Singh is in fourth position, followed by Wicket Low, Jezrid Jali, Shami Azri, James Russell, who's managed to bring himself right up into 8th place from a rather lowly starting position there. Shami Aizan is in 9th, in a very similar race plan from him, and Afizul Jai is in 10th place.
So what Russell did just demonstrates what a clean and consistent racing can do for you, coming up from P18 all the way up to P8, and having done his pit stop, I reckon he's ready to go to the end with this. So looking forward to this exciting race restart, which will happen in a few laps time.
Absolutely. 15 minutes to go. We might look at a restart at around the 12 minutes to go, or even the 10 minutes to go mark, if all these drivers are able to get past the unlap themselves around the safety car safely, hopefully, as well as get themselves into position. The caution period really depending on how long the cleanup is. Luckily, in a sim, that's one thing where we can depart from reality and get rid of the cars fairly quickly. Indeed, our virtual marshals are some of the best in the business. But joking aside, we only have Dominic Ang and Jay Chong who have not stopped yet. Perhaps this will enable them to really try a very strange strategy, that is to try and get as high up the field as possible and perhaps do a last lap pit.
That's true. That could be one strategy that people will try. Seeing this safety car comes quite late into the race, about 66% or 2/3 into the race. So this could be something very interesting to see. But
Already, I just got word from our director saying that the graphics occasionally don't update entirely accurately, and that's simply because if you get towed into the pits and start again from the pits, that might not count as a pit stop on the graphics, but rest be assured it does count in the timekeeper's office. We have a man out there that will check everyone to make sure they've done their mandatory pit stops. But now it looks like all the drivers are beginning to line up again. There's another car that's gone off.
There's a crash behind. Oh.
That's one of the outer house cars. That's
Looks like it is Amir Faridyan and Freddie Ang. Coming straight in like a rocket ship, like a torpedo. What happened?
Looks very, very bad indeed. It looks like Freddie Young was coming up on the apron at very high speeds and just wasn't able to make the corner there. That looks to be...
Yes. Could that be Matt, could that be a stuck gas pedal or something? Or a stuck some item which went wrong for Freddie Young there?
Well, that could absolutely be a possibility. We've had an incident in the first round where James Russell's sim rig failed. Unfortunately, it stuck them on full throttle, but there's a little bit more here. Let's see. Coming around the corner, going up onto the banking. and it looks like Freddie Young is slowing down a little bit, and
Ooh, that's quite close. That's
Yeah.
dicey. That's dicey.
that looks to be a little bit interesting indeed. I'm sure the stewards will have a look at that. But yeah, he looks to just floor the accelerator and take aim. So not really too sure what happened down there, but it does mean that Freddie Young is basically totaled his car, and he's taken Amir Farah down with him, which is very unfortunate indeed.
That's right. So that looks very weird. I mean, the initial incident looked like as if the steering has failed and the car just swerved into the wall, or perhaps there was something else behind that. And then subsequently, it looked as if the throttle was jammed wide open as Freddie Ang careered into the path of Amir Farid, effectively taking both of them out of the race, win. Whether they remain and come back to the race, that remains to be seen.
Absolutely, that's going to be very disappointing for the URT guys to have yet another driver basically out of contention for the top points paying positions there. But meanwhile, we'll have to carry on in the full course caution. That means that we might have to have yet another lap of full course yellow, but we'll see. The lights are now off on the safety car, so that indicates to me that there is a possibility that we might be going back racing very, very shortly indeed.
Yep. So let's keep our eyes on Arif Roslan, which in the first start of the lap 1 of the race did a really good start and left the rest behind for that. Let's see if he can do the same, and let's see at which point he decides to pull off and accelerate into the horizon. Let's take a look at Arif Roslan and see how he restarts this race.
Absolutely. So now the nerves are going to build up yet again. Arif Roslan has a very unenviable sight behind him. 2 Toyota Motorsports cars that were working very well together to try and catch up the gap. Now the safety car has done a lot of that work for them. Will Arif Roslan be able to maintain that lead? If he does, he would have had a fantastic win from pole position. It'll be absolutely glorious for the SSAT team. They were desperate for this good result. Now the safety car has gone off, and Arif Roslan has control of the pace of the field. We have the lights are on. They will go off, and it's green, green, green. Arif Roslan has managed to take a massive jump into the lead. Ilham Halabi is in second place, and it looks like he has managed to catch those Toyota Motorsports guys sleeping ever so slightly there, but Arif Roslan has managed to run away with it. Ilham Halabi is in second place, Saif Arifin is in third, and it looks like there's another incident, or there was briefly another incident on the timing screen there, but James Russell has managed to get up into 7th position. Meanwhile, Kavinder Singh has managed to keep his 4th position. Wicket Low and Jesrin Delhi are right up there in the thick of the action. Afizul Jai and Eddie Adrian are very close to each other, and the entire field from 11th down to 20th are very close to each other. This is train racing. All the talk about strategy is done. All the talk about everything else is done. Right now, it's all about that sprint to the finish line. 11 minutes to go as we went green there, and now we are put flat to the floor on the way to the finish line.
And now we keep our eyes on Ruben Wong as he goes into the bus stop chicane, which has claimed one too many cars today. And let's see if everyone goes past smoothly. If you can look at the camera, that is such an impressive view that how these drivers actually control their cars to have that little slip, just enough for them to navigate the corner, but also having the car in full control and they don't spin out as they go into Ruben Wong goes into the final chicane and heads into the next lap.
Absolutely, and Ruben Wong will be trying to push as hard as possible to get into that top 10. Remember, the points increase by 2 for every position once you get into the top 6, so that's what all these drivers want to be in. They want to be in that top 6 position to try and gain as many points as possible for their respective teams and for themselves in the Drivers' Championship. Meanwhile, Ilham Halabi, he's managed to gain 4 positions over the course of the race. Can he bring the challenge to Arif Roslan? It looks like Ilham Halabi managed to take up a lot of pace going through the infield section there, and now he's in the slipstreaming zone. Will we see an overtaking maneuver coming up through there? Ilham Halabi goes wide. Arif Roslan goes tight. Let's see if they can do anything through here. They're not able to do so, but will we see another overtaking maneuver in the final chicane?
That's a great move, great defensive move by Arif Roslan, making his car as wide as possible in the middle of the track, but not causing any incident and hitting the curbs on the perfect position, just not to lose any speed, and also, most importantly, keep the car in control. What a fantastic racing from both of these guys. But Ilham Halabi crossing the line in doing a last lap almost identical to Arif Roslan, 1:19.17, and Arif Roslan at 1:19.14, almost identical lap doing this chase. And as we can see, Shaiful Arifin has gone set back quite a fair bit, but still doing a similar time to the two guys in front of them. Perhaps this is a strategy to exhaust the tires before the other Todak team can come, the teammates can come and attack the leader instead. This is why it's very important to have more cars at the top of the positions. Let's take a look and see if indeed that happens.
Absolutely, Todak Motorsports have the upper hand here in terms of strategy and team play, because if Ilham Halabi burns his tyres out a little bit, he has backup in the form of Saiful Arifin. Two very, very quick drivers indeed are chasing down Arif Roslan, but Arif Roslan dealing with the pressure very well indeed. He still goes tight going through the bus stop chicane. He's wise to what Ilham is about to do next. Now Ilham, he is one of those drivers that likes to put as much pressure on the car ahead as possible. He's not the type of driver who's going to go for those big deep dive bombs into turn one. He's the kind of driver that is going to sort of assess his prey, watch him very, very carefully, and then go for the maneuver. But Arif Roslan, he is very, very quick indeed. He's still lapping in the 1:19s. That is relatively quick for this late stage in the race as we come into the 5 minute to go mark. So we might see a lap 28 or lap 29 race.
As we now focus our attention on Afizul Jai running in the midfield with James Russell just in front of him, taking the 7th position of Afizul Jai at the restart. They're still very close in terms of battles, and they have built a gap. Jazrin Jali has built a gap of 7 seconds ahead from Russell and Jai here. And let's see how Russell defends through the midsection of this particular course.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see he is definitely sizing up his opponent here. Again, another driver that likes to not necessarily have a wait-and-see approach. As he's hit the wall there, that's going to really rob him of a lot of speed there. Afizul Jai perhaps succumbing to the pressure just before James Russell was able to counter, but he is in 8th position, and he'll try his best to try and put as much speed into that car as he can. Jazrin Jali, meanwhile, he's 5 seconds behind Wicket Low, who is even closer to Kelvinder Singh in that Android King car. We're going to be very close here. You can see Wicket Low is trying his hardest to get up into the top 4 and perhaps maybe try and do some rearguard action to help Arif Roslan in the race. This is turning out to be a very tactical race near the end there, but Wicket Low has Kelvinder Singh, who is desperately hanging on to 5th position. Will Wicket Low be able to, first of all, overtake Kelvinder Singh, and secondly, try anything to try and help his the lead driver of the team sort of through into the end of the race there. Ilham Halabi still putting a lot of pressure on Arif Roslan. They are closer than ever. Will we see an overtaking maneuver going around the inside of the banking? Arif Roslan is on the outside, Ilham Halabi is on the inside. They are door to door, side by side, going into the braking zone. Who is going to yield first? It looks like Arif Roslan backs out of it, and Ilham Halabi takes the lead of the race.
Yep, backing off early, and what a move from Ilham Halabi. I mean, he, like what you said, right? He really sized up his opposition. He runs with Roslan closely in the past 3 laps. Every single time, Roslan takes the inside line, and this time he denies him that line, takes that line, and indeed takes P1. Currently leading the race, lap 28 of this race in the Charlotte Roval. What a move by Ilham Halabi.
Absolutely, and like I was saying earlier on before the incident, for those of you not in the know, Ilham Halabi has been on iRacing since the iRacing.com service has started. So that is a lot of years of experience, over a decade's worth of experience in sim racing underneath the right foot of Ilham Halabi, and that just goes to show that you can see how well he did there. Now we have a look at the 2 URT drivers there, Dominic Ong and Ruben Wong, who are now locked in a bit of a train themselves in 11th and 12th positions. Will they be able to catch up with Michael Hafiz?
Yeah, so Ruben Wong was lapping faster than Dominic Ang before that. This might be a team strategy for them to actually want to let one of the URT cars pass. But at the moment, we're not looking at that. But they're all closing up at Mychill at P10 with 1 second gap. So let's take a look and see how they navigate the infield. And as they go on to the oval section, this is what they can do. But as you can see, there is a bit of a damage on Dominic's car in the front of the car. Slight damage there, perhaps affecting the performance of his run. Let's take a look.
Absolutely, Dominic Ang now has the handicap of having slightly worse aerodynamics. Of course, these cars don't really have too many aerodynamic devices, but the overall shape of the car still has a great effect on how the car does aerodynamically. And at a track like this, where slipstreaming is so important, any sort of bodywork damage would really hinder your performance when you are trying to duel with the next driver when it comes to slipstreaming.
Yeah, but that is such a good move from Dominic Ang, navigating the bus stop chicane with a damaged car, because as you can see, he really jammed his throttle through, full through, and as now he hits the wall once more time, the URT car seems to be a little bit eager to pass and eager to close up the gap. He was doing quite well, closing up the gap to Mychill under 1 second, but now he's 1.3 seconds behind the P10 car of Mychill Hafiz.
Absolutely. Could there be suspension damage there? Meanwhile, we're having a look at the back of the lead group there, and we see Wicket Low has managed to get into 4th position, and now Jazrin Jali is now really trying to put the maneuver on Saiful Arifin. He's dropped quite a few positions there. Meanwhile, while we're away, and it looks like this train of cars are working very hard, almost working together there. Wicket Low still trying to chase up with Kelvinder Singh, but Ilham Halabi is going to head off into the white flag lap, I believe. Let's see where he is on track, but I think he may have crossed the finish line. And yes, we have Ilham Halabi has won the race. Arif Roslan is in 2nd. Kelvinder Singh is in 3rd position, just denying Wicket Low of 3rd. He's in 4th. Jaswin Jali is in 5th. Saiful Arifin is in 6th. James Russell with his best run in the series in 7th. Afizul Jai is in 8th. Eddie Adrian is in 9th, and Michael Hafiz manages to defend his top 10 position.
What a race from all involved, especially by that pass on by Ilham Halabi on Arif Roslan. That was such a good one. I think all of us enjoyed that very, very much. That was clean, calculated, ruthless, and here we go. The fireworks begin for all these drivers still on track on the Charlotte Roval.
Absolutely, and perhaps a little bit of a messy dive bomb into the final corner there for Mohammad Shukran. I'm sure there will be fireworks at the pits after that one. But Tengku Janle is in 23rd position, coming up across towards the line there. And it looks like Calvin Ha comes in 21st position. Zainal Hazim looks to be coming in 22nd, followed by Tengku Janle. And Fairuz is now still out on track. He'll be looking to finish the race perhaps in the pits as it looks like. But yeah, that has been an absolutely fantastic race. The battle for the lead had us on the edge of our seats, and I don't know about you, but I was definitely chewing my fingernails on that last few laps, seeing if this man here, Ilham Halabi, was able to overtake Arif Roslan.
What a move, what a fantastic move. If you've not seen it, I think we'll have it on the please take a look at it under the replay once we have done with this stream. And this is just a move to be dreamed of. What a fantastic move from Ilham Halabi on Arif Roslan to take the lead almost at the end of the race, just before the checker flag came out and completed the race. But just take a look, want to focus our attention on P10 as well. 916 Mychill Hafiz, he started P27 and made up 17 positions in this race as well. What a fantastic performance from Mychill Hafiz and the Todak team. So congratulations once again to the Todak Motorsport team. Well done indeed.
Absolute. Alrighty, so we're going to try and contact some of our drivers for the post-race interview as they line up for their photo sessions. So as we wait for that, we can see all the drivers there doing the customary post-race photography sessions. The Todak Motorsports guys will be absolutely loving this. but also the SSAD guys who have not perhaps had the best run in the first 2 rounds of the championship. They'll be very, very thankful to have Arif Roslan that high up in the field. But meanwhile, we have Majid Hafiz.
Aku dekat dalam mana? Ilham. Okay.
So, Majid, apakah pandangan anda pada performance Todak Motorsport pada hari ini?
Okay, hari ni Alhamdulillah semuanya nampak macam okay. Untuk Todak Motorsport, 3-3 berjaya mendapat top 10. Tapi untuk Todak Motorsport Asia, kita kekurangan Lloyd malam ni. Lloyd tak ada, jadi ada Muhaimin dan juga Zafri je. Dan Todak Revolution hanya ada Iman Danish. So kita berjuang, kita cuba race macam Cil, pace Cil memang dekat tengah-tengah, bukannya dekat depan. So kita maintain pace kita, dan yang 2 orang lagi buat kerja dia kat depan. So kita cuba maximiskan dia punya point lah. So Alhamdulillah, good result untuk Ilham, tahniah. Dan juga kepada tim-tim yang lain macam Arif Rohlan, Kevinder pun semua tahniah juga. Okay, tu je dari kap. Tahniah.
So, Hafizul Jai, bagaimanakah perasaan pasukan Android King pada malam ni?
Congrats Cik Kelvin kita telah berjaya podium P3. And then congrats kepada driver Android King yang lain kerana cuba drive secara most ethical as possible.
Aku kena langgar.
So, track ini sangat mencabarlah Alang and Max.
So, adakah apa-apa pelajaran yang boleh bawa masuk kepada round-round yang akan datang?
I think ada good driving spirit and sportsmanship for everyone makin naik. Tapi still I think patience of the driver are tested lah. So maknanya for next round kena lagi sabar. Kalau apa-apa jadi kena lagi cool, lagi relax lah. Jangan retaliate gitu.
Okay, dan ada apa-apa shout out nak bagi kepada siapa-siapa pada malam ni?
Thank you to organizer. Thank you to my team and also Toda, and tahniah kepada winner Ilham Arif Roslan. Suddenly Arif Roslan second hari ni.
Ya, lupa nak mention tadi untuk satellite team Toda, iaitu Android King SSD Toda dan juga Dantes Toda Motorsport. Tahniah juga kerana menghabiskan perlombaan.
Thank you. Alright. Awesome.
Dan rupanya we have our race winner in the virtual studio today. Ilham Halabi, apa khabar?
Khabar baik.
Apa perasaan finally dapat menang dalam season 2 ni?
Alhamdulillah, tak disangka-sangka sebenarnya. Agak fight juga dekat depan sebab kereta ni susah nak potong kereta depan. Macam tak ada toe sangat. Tapi Arif ada buat macam mistake, terlanggar dinding ke apa, so dia terambil wide tu, yang ambil kesempatan lah dekat situ.
So ada apa-apa harapan untuk nak cuba naikkan posisi di dalam championship?
Harapan buat yang terbaik je lah untuk yang berbaki berapa lagi, 3 rounds itu saja.
Kita nak shout out sekali bila kita ada dalam stream lagi ni.
So tim Todak nanti kita kambing.
Kambing. Todak domination.
Go. Tak ada.
So harap. Alrighty, so sekarang kita akan wrap. So we're gonna have a quick wrap up. It's been absolutely fantastic race. We've had everything from drama to suspense to out and out wheel on wheel action there. Special thanks has to go out to my guest commentator on short notice, Kelvin T.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Really enjoyed the session together. I mean, this is something awesome to be in the commentators box. Let's do it once again, and I hope all the drivers there had fun. We certainly had the most fun watching the close battles on this comfortable screen that we have here. So thank you so much to AIMC for hosting this fantastic race, and let's look forward to the next round.
Absolutely. And we're going to have a special thanks to our Chief Steward, Paduka Shoaib. I'm sure he'll have quite a lot of work for him at the end of this race, gathering up all the information. So a special thanks to him as well. Special thanks to our director, Karo Alang, and to all our sponsors, Works Engineering, Lucas Oil, Precision Sim Racing, Android King, our official supporter for this championship, the Motorsports Association of Malaysia, and to all of our supporters and all our backers, a very special thank you. My name is Matthew Palmer, and we will see you all in the next round. Ta-ra!
Hi, I'm Matt from Interformula, and welcome to our Research and Development Centre. We do all forms of research and development, all the way from designing and developing our own race cars, to simulators, to running cars in racing series and rallying all over the world. We also do a lot in the Asian Classic Car Championship, so do look out for us. For any information, do contact us with the number down below.